It looks like the keynote's still going on, so I'll give them a few more minutes. But if you're here for the talk on innovation, great new way of thinking about innovation, you're in the right room. Folks will ask me if I'm actually in the Army. Yes, I am in the Army. I'm a lieutenant colonel. I work in this organization called the Army Cyber Institute. I'll go over that a little more when the room starts filling up a little bit. But what we really do is at the Army Cyber Institute, it's at West Point, New York, about 50 miles north of New York City, located at the military academy up there. And so in addition to being a research scientist with the Army Cyber Institute, I teach cadets. I teach systems engineering. And the great thing with my class is I teach all the senior cadets, at least the class is composed of all senior cadets, and I bring them my cyber-related research projects. So we don't have TAs at West Point. All the professors there, they're small classroom sizes, about 19, 20. If you can get exceptions, I think the dean has to get an exception to get 20 cadets in a classroom. But usually the max size of the classroom is 18 cadets, small classroom sizes. My class is 14 cadets, so it's a small classroom size, and I have 5 projects, cyber-related projects, that my cadets are working on. And so again, we don't have TAs, but I found a way to sort of get TAs. I got my 14 cadets working on cyber projects that I'm interested in, and so they're taking those on. So I had a colleague of mine, he called this to my attention. Yeah, we don't have TAs, so, you know, we really teach for free, right? We're excited about teaching. Yeah, the government pays us to grade. That's the problem. Without having TAs, they pay us to grade. Some of the projects my cadets are working on this semester, they're all real cyber projects. They are coming from the Central Command down in Tampa, Florida. Central Command, U.S. Army Central Command, they're the organization that's responsible for all the operations in the Middle East, Syria, Afghanistan, Iraq, all the things you've heard about for the past 10, 15 years. And they've got an organization down there called the Joint Cyber Center. And they have a bunch of PhDs, which is kind of amazing, all these PhD folks. And they have all these cyber-related questions. One of the criteria I told the Joint Cyber Center folks was I did not want anything on their critical path. So any research project that they had critical deadlines, milestones that they had to get accomplished, you know, say 3 months down the line, 6 months, even a year, 2 years down the line. I didn't want to take on any of those projects, but I wanted projects that they just didn't have manpower. Something that was important to them, but they just couldn't focus time on. And so I could have my cadets working on them. And so the 5 projects I'm working this semester, viability of offensive cyber operations, right? That's a little bit of my talk. Thinking about innovating about cyber defense and even cyber offense, right? The cyber offense, is that even a deterrent? Right? That's actually another group that's working on that. The effectiveness of cyber deterrence. That's one cadet team that's working on that. One of the chief warrant officers at Central Command asked the question, can we use social media and AI? He's particularly interested in artificial intelligence to counter violent extremist organizations. So I have 3 cadets working on that. Let's see who else. Cyber reserves. Anyone attend the National Guard presentation here yesterday afternoon? Yeah. What's our force structure? How do we, in the US, comprise an organization that does the best job at protecting our nation, cyber defense? One team focused specifically on cyber reserves, or Army cyber reserves. And then I have another team that's looking at the entire force structure, Guard, reserves, active duty. And so, again, broad range of subjects I was interested in. And then, right, the cadets don't know any better. I just fed them the projects, so they're working away at these. Let's see. Are you guys just coming from keynote? Okay. Yeah, I think it's still going on. I think it's still going on. I'll probably get started in a few minutes. I'll compensate. Better slides. If the power goes off, this is going to be an academic conference. The problem I have with the room layout here is I will get a little, should I get started? Okay, you're already recording, so. I used GrrCON. I thought the theme was pirate related. I'm seeing the big dinosaur there. I saw some of the old presentations, so I said, all right, that might have been an old theme. So I was thinking, oh, this is going to be pirate related, right? Yeah. So you're going to see a lot of pirate themes throughout my presentation. So I might be a little off, but I don't see the dinosaur in this room. So we're in the gig. I thought this looked like a pirate theme to me. So you're going to see a lot of pirate-related objects here in my presentation. And again, I am Lieutenant Colonel Ernie Wong. I am a researcher. Again, my hacker name is Cozy Panda. So if you talk to the CrowdStrike folks in the next room at the vendor space, you could probably figure out where I got my hacker name from. And there's my email contact if you'd like to get a hold of me. But this talk here really is my way of trying to, I arrived into the Army Cyber Institute 2 years ago, and I'm a military intelligence officer, right? Never did anything with cyber other than my annual user training, right? And any military folks in the audience from former military experience? What branches? Army? Civilian, okay. DA, Department of the Army Civilian? Okay, very good, yeah. Air Force? Oh, good, we have an Air Force. Good. Any Navy? Oh, good, we got joint services. No, Coast Guard? Anyone Coast Guard? No? I don't make fun of the Coast Guard in here. Air Force I make fun of. The Navy I sort of prop up in this brief, but the Air Force I make fun of, but not too badly. Army folk, I make fun of the Army folks. So my whole intent with this presentation, the way it really started, was for me to convince Army generals, right, our leadership, of how we can actually innovate in our own Army. And we have this new branch in the Army, right, cyber. So how can we use our cyber forces to the best of their capabilities against, right, our, what does the CrowdStrike call them? Advanced persistent threats, right? They used to be a classified term, right? Advanced persistent, that was the US's way of not saying, oh, it's Chinese. So it's advanced persistent threats, right? We couldn't say China. Right? Cozy Panda. It's okay. Cozy Panda. So really, again, for those of you coming in late, you're going to see a lot of references to the pirates. My theme might have been a little wrong, but at least it's consistent. Good. Looks like the keynote's over. So I'll bring in a lot of what Dave was talking about too. That was a actually pretty good keynote. I was trying to figure out how he's going to weave all this baseball story, right? 30 minutes of baseball into that last golden nugget. Yeah, at the very end. Yeah, you tied it all in. Red, blue teams. It's actually kind of nice. We're all in this team together, right? How do we fight this cyber defense all as one unified group, right? Military likes that. Unity command. Military likes that. So if you come in, don't worry about it. I just started. Yeah, let's grab a seat. I'm calling this front stage area, again, with my pirate theme, I'm calling this plank, right? This looks like the captain's mast right here. It's kind of an odd setup. Okay, I'm about to get executed if I don't do a good job with this presentation here. So if you're in for the talk on innovation, you're on the right place. If you don't want to learn about innovation, cyber innovation, you don't want to check your listing for the other rooms. This is the gig room. And as I mentioned before, I wanted to give an introduction of really what I am all about, at least the organization. So I work in this organization called the Army Cyber Institute. Again, it's located 50 miles north of New York City, co-located with the United States Military Academy. So I do dual jobs, right? I'm an instructor with the Department of Systems Engineering, and then my real day job is I do cyber research. A lot of what Dave Exman was talking about, right? Security research, and that's what I do. So 5 years ago, our organization got stood up. Okay, in the timeline of government organizations, we're still a startup. Yeah, I know for the folks in here, yeah, 5 years ancient, right? For government organizations, we are still a startup. We actually have a bunch of startup companies come visit us. And when we have these CEOs, CIOs, CISOs come talk to us, we're located right outside of West Point. It's called Spelman Hall. I don't have a picture of, I should have a picture of. We are located in the dormitories of the old Lady Cliff College that used to be right outside of West Point. And so when Lady Cliff College, they had some financial issues back in the late 80s, they went under. The military academy took over the grounds there. And so the Army Cyber Institute, when they stood up, that was one of the places they decided to put us in. And so we have these CEOs of these startup tech companies come and talk to us. They say, yeah, you guys are still a startup. You guys are housed in a women's dormitory. All right. We're getting renovated right now. The building's renovated. So we're even worse off. We're in trailers now, right? We're in the parking lot in trailers. So we're worse off. So we truly are still a startup. 5 years to come. But our first director, 5 years running, this was our original mission statement, right? I highlight 2 areas: impactful partnerships. The reality is my coming to this conference is terrific because I'm leveraging the brain power of everyone here, right? A lot of what essentially Dave Exus was talking about. You are experts, right? Not a lot of folks raised their hands. I didn't raise my hand when I said, are you an expert? I'm going to show you a lot of the expertise I have. It's primarily in the military realm and a lot of military history that I bring into hopefully describing cyber to our generals, making them understand what cyber is all about. Cyber defense in particular. And then this other notion, building intellectual capital. So in addition to doing these presentations, I have to write papers as well. That's what I found about these cyber conferences. A lot of folks do presentations, not a whole lot of writing. I know some folks do it, right? Podcasts and they do blogs. That's terrific, right? Get the information out. But I do a lot of writing. Again, coming from an academic institution, United States Military Academy, they encourage us to write, publish. And then for me, this is like a side gig, right? Doing these presentations. But I think it's great because I get to touch a wider audience. Like Dave Crispin was talking about, right? When he gives talks to legal folks, when he gives talks to, right, marketing folks, it's all new. He can give talks on long passwords being, right, 20-minute talk on long passwords. You don't have to have these complicated passwords. Well, in this case, I'm giving a talk really, I told you it was designed for generals, but my beta test for this talk was actually for K through 12 students. I was invited to do a STEM conference trying to encourage our nation's youth to pursue, right, cyber as a possible discipline, right? Dave talked about shortage of cybersecurity experts. I'm trying to encourage, right, our high school students. I think the median group there, a lot of high school students, but I had a lot of 5th graders and 6th graders. I told them, right, the title of the talk for them was, they are already smarter than me. It's something related to innovation, but I told them in parentheses, they're more cyber experts than I am. I've only been in this business 2 years. And the only training I've had is the Army. I know the military folks, the annual user training. It doesn't change. So what I do is I go to Google. When the question pops up, I go to Google. Someone's already, or Wiki Answers. It gives me the answers. I don't need to go through that 1 hour. I just click continue. I've hacked, right? Army Cyber Institute. I've hacked the test. I can take that test in 10 seconds. I just go to Google. I just got to make sure my internet connection's on. Again, military folks, that's the tough part, right? Making sure your internet connection, 99% is not working for us. In the military, we don't have efficiency as high. We actually balance it with the security. Yeah, unfortunately, with the balance of security, we're probably 80%, 85% uptime. Not good, right, from a corporate perspective. Okay, but we value security a little better. Maybe. Hopefully by the end of the talk, you're not thinking that way. So our new director, Colonel Andy Hall, he took over a year and a half ago. He altered, at least he's proposing that we alter our mission statement. Still a lot of the same things, right? Interdisciplinary research, shape future thoughts. But when I saw this, right, develop innovative solutions for enabling cyber resiliency, I went meta, right? I said, okay, yeah, we're doing innovation for cyber resiliency. So I asked myself, what is innovation? And then when I went around all these, I don't have my PhD yet. I'm not looking to get my PhD now that I see all the work that these guys are doing. Right? What is innovation? Well, I have an idea of what innovation is when I studied it. So really, when I did my research on innovation, that's really what I got this genesis for. How can we do cyber defense particularly better? And when I started thinking about cyber defense, it actually turned out cyber offense naturally tag along. Same things that's good for cyber defense works for cyber offense. So hold that thought. So instead of looking at innovation as one big monolithic entity, right? I break it down. Any business majors in the audience? In business school? Right? All our business majors know you can break the world down in a 2x2 matrix, right? So in my case, I broke this down in 2x2 matrix. I looked at one criteria is the level of complexity of the innovation, right? If it's very sophisticated or if it's very simple, right? Not very high tech at all. The other axis, right? The other criteria I used is whether that innovation is targeting a new market or underserved market, or if it's targeting an existing market, right? This is probably a little harder to understand, so I'm going to give you some examples, okay? So in this quadrant right here, this low-tech existing market quadrant, I call that sustaining innovations, right? Meeting existing customer needs. And predominantly, it's the big customers, your best customers. Okay, so keep that in mind. It's your best customers that you're catering the sustaining innovations. If we go to the high-tech side, I call that evolutionary innovation, right? Think Darwin, right? Incremental or evolutionary innovation. Think Darwin. Now, if I'm going up, this is the hard part, right? God, can we have markets that don't exist? New markets? Emerging markets? Sure. I call that breakthrough innovations. Okay, I also call it jumping the curve, and I'll come back to that a little later. I call that breakthrough innovation. What about this space? Does this even occur? Yeah, we kind of like that one, breakthrough. Yeah, high-tech stuff. In this audience, that's why I love coming to these conferences here. In this audience, I think most of us would agree this space does exist. I would challenge that most of you are doing this. Most of the vendors outside this room, they're doing this, right? It might be high-tech. Yeah, we might be getting towards the breakthrough side, but I'm going to argue that a lot of the stuff that in these GrrCONs, B-sides, right, all these cybersecurity conferences I go to, this is what I'm hearing from most of the talks. This revolutionary innovation. I used to call this disruptive innovations. I'm changing it now. It's got to be revolutionary. Too many people confuse disruptive with, right, disruptive. Yeah, breakthrough innovations are disruptive as well. That's why I'm calling it revolutionary, because it fits with my military theme here. Hopefully you'll see why. Okay, to make better sense, okay, here's the bad thing, right? Here's the bad thing. For those of you in the audience that think the only innovations will be high tech, we've got a few more seats in here in this front row. I want you to come to the front, right? Chinese philosophy is we like our friends close, but we like our enemies closer. I like you to sit in these seats. Yeah, perfect. Sit in these seats right here. I like my enemies closer, right? I'm going to convince you, right? Hopefully I'm going to convince you, right? Not all innovation has to be in this space. And what's worse, when I talk to the generals, right, our senior leaders, they focus on that space right there, breakthrough, jumping the curve types of innovation. Isn't that true? Anyone see Chris Roberts' talk yesterday? Chris Roberts? What do you say? Taser him, right? Taser him if you start seeing these CEOs gravitate, what do you call it? Bright, shiny objects? Yeah, I'm going to actually coin his phrase. I'm calling it bright, shiny objectitis. Okay? Don't suffer from that. Okay? Remember, there's 4 quadrants to innovation. I'm hopefully, right, future, right? Breakthrough, evolutionary, high-tech, that's future. Look into the past. You can look to the past and get innovation. Cozy Panda, right? Chinese. That's Eastern philosophy. So hopefully, I'm going to convince you, especially the two that, yeah, I'm going to convince you guys, hopefully there's innovation that comes from this space. It's coming from really everyone in this room. Okay, again, I don't have an introductory slide that introduces myself. I always use that dead time in between and try to introduce a little bit, but I'm going to introduce myself as these slides go along so you get a little bit of feel for my personality. I am a military intelligence officer, and this is the way I think of a story to describe these 4 quadrants. The best archetype for sustaining innovations to me is Spock, right? I'm a huge Star Trek fan. I didn't see too many folks in this conference with Star Trek, Star Wars shirts. I was a little disappointed with that. Saw a lot of folks with different colored hair. I'm in the right space, but I keep telling my boss I'm going to dye my hair. Still in Army tradition, right? Still shortly cut, but I'm going to dye it green, bright green, neon green. Come to these conferences. I'll see if he agrees to it one day. I'm thinking Spock though, right? Spock is very logical. He's giving Captain Kirk the highest probability of success courses of action, and that's really right. Very right, unemotional, right? Very statistics based. Okay. And if you remember Star Trek II, the movie, right? Not the Into Darkness, but Star Trek II, right? With Leonard Nimoy here, right? The needs of the many outweigh the needs of the few, or in that case, the needs of the one, right? So Spock sacrifices himself in order to save the Enterprise, right? When Khan destroys the Enterprise and the warp core is going ballistic. Okay. So he sacrificed himself. On the evolutionary side, the characters I'm thinking of, any Mad Magazine fans in the room? Yeah, this is the right audience. Do we have any kids in the audience? I only had Hackford kids going on. Okay. Yeah, I think everyone in here will understand my references, and that's good. Spy versus spy, right? So in the incremental space, in the Mad Magazine, if you don't remember reading it, the white spy is always trying to kill the black spy in every episode, and the black spies are trying to kill the white spy. In every episode, right, one ups the other, right? Develop some type of innovation, some type of trap, some type of gold rubric device that leads his opponent to his death. Okay, but goes on and on forever. It's apparently it's online now. I found a few episodes online, so it's actually, I'm glad that's continuing. So I'm thinking spy versus spy for evolution, right? Think Darwin, right? All you're doing is trying to one up your competitor, your nearest competitor, your near peer competitor, in order to outdo them. When I'm thinking breakthrough, though, right? High tech, but new markets, right? The character I'm thinking of is James Bond, right? I'm particularly thinking of the Pierce Brosnan James Bond. Yeah, so for those of you, right, the new James Bond, Daniel Craig, Casino Royale, yeah, he's trying to get pulled into this revolutionary side, right? He's doing a lot more fist fights, yeah, less high-tech stuff. But again, the last 3 episodes, come on. He's clearly, right? Daniel Craig is clearly in the breakthrough. He's enamored now with all the high-tech stuff, right? Q gives him all these briefcases of new watches, and the Vantage car that he has, right, has that camouflage, that speckling camouflage, and hides wherever he's at. Yeah, so even Daniel Craig is clearly breakthrough now. What about revolutionary? Low-tech. We have a spy that's low-tech? You think of a spy? I'm military intelligence, right? Gotta have a spy that's low-tech. Get Smart, I was thinking Get Smart possibly, but I think, right, he still had a lot of high-tech devices. Here's the problem with 99, right, Get Smart? Get Smart was breakthrough, right? They had a lot of high-tech stuff. What was the problem? It just didn't work, right? The Cone of Silence, that was high-tech. It just didn't work. That's the problem, right? The failed breakthrough, okay? But when I'm thinking revolution, I'm thinking MacGyver, right? MacGyver, right? He solves the day not with the Omega watch, right? Not with the Lotus, right? Not with the Vantage, not with the BMWs, not with the helicopters. What does he solve things with? Duct tape. What else? Paper, wherever's in his pocket, right? And his Swiss Army knife, right? Gotta remember the Swiss Army knife. I did watch the remake, the reboot. I heard a lot of bad reviews of it. I only watched the one scene. It was actually right before a conference. I was giving a talk, and I said, "Oh, it's on that night." Actually, I used to have a video that would show it, and the YouTube clip actually had a commercial for the new MacGyver. So I said, "Oh, I guess I'll watch it that night and see what it's all about." So it was a late conference. I got back to my hotel, and I turned it on. And MacGyver, apparently, whoever the new MacGyver was, he had what was it? Garden hose. He had a garden hose strangling him, right? Some bad guy was strangling the garden, so he had a Swiss Army knife. He cut the garden hose. I saw a Swiss Army knife. I turned it off. So that's MacGyver. I got the gist of it. So I know I told you that I originally gave this talk to K through 12 students. I did not. I thought they would get these, right? I wasn't sure if they'd get MacGyver. MacGyver is pretty a niche, especially for our age group, right, or older. So I said, okay, instead of MacGyver, Jason Bourne. Yeah, so I know all the kids. Yeah, Jason Bourne. I've seen all those movies. Yeah, remember Jason Bourne, right? He's fighting for his life and the life of his girlfriend, whatever episode it is, right? New girlfriend each episode, right? He's trying to save their own lives with whatever is at his disposal. Usually it's his own wit, right? He's trying to outwit his opponents. He finds a shotgun in the house of the rented apartment he was at, right? He's getting the Mini Coupe, right? That sags to the right, his girlfriend's car. So he compensates for everything based on his skills. Let's see. I told you I'm a military intelligence officer, and so there's one character that really doesn't belong up here. If you're thinking MI, right? MI, you try to think of spies. Yeah, as much as I love Spock, he really doesn't belong up here. Okay, Spock, I'm sorry. Great archetype for sustaining, but he just doesn't belong up there. I'm thinking Mission Impossible. Okay, and again, I'm not thinking Tom Cruise Mission Impossible, right? Tom Cruise Mission Impossible is breakthrough. Right, he's got the voice data scramblers, can imitate any voice. He's got that 3D printer that can mask any face. Right, he's got, in this episode, I think it was Rogue Nation, right? He's climbing that highest tower in the world in United Arab Emirates, right? With that glove, that makes him Spider-Man. Sure, it fails a few times, right? It glitzes out, so he's sliding a few times off the tower. But that's breakthrough stuff, even if it's imaginary. Right? I can't confirm or deny that is consistent. But that's breakthrough stuff, right? High tech, a lot of R&D. You got to get that equipment back, right? That's why Bond, right? Q Division hated Bond because Bond always broke that stuff. He lost it, right? That's expensive stuff. You got to get that stuff back to Q so they can get that return on investment, right? ROI. Governments still use ROI. It's not just corporate. So I'm thinking Mission Impossible, not Tom Cruise Mission Impossible. I'm thinking Leonard Nimoy played Paris. Okay, if you've got an Amazon Prime account, use now. They've got all the episodes on there. It's terrific. Watch the episodes. Yeah, the other thing I like about Mission Impossible, it actually spans all quadrants. Remember Barney? He's the high-tech guy, right? He, I guess, would play... Who's the new guy? Who is it? Oh, Simon Pegg. That's right, Simon Pegg. Or before him in Mission Impossible 1, the guy who got the elevator, got crushed in the elevator. Christian Slater. He played like for 5 seconds. He played Barney for 5 seconds. Got crushed by the elevator. Again, sometimes the high-tech stuff fails. That's reality, right? Even that Tom Cruise glove fails. Okay? But then we also have Phelps, right? Peter Phelps, the guy in charge, right? He's thinking, right? He's masterminding this thing, right? He's getting the best resources in order to defeat the nation state, right? It was some quasi-Russian, it was always some Eastern Bloc, right? A made-up nation. But actually, I saw one episode where Leonard Nimoy played a Japanese ambassador, right? He was in whiteface, they dolled him up. I guess they didn't have the 3D laser printer. So at least he spoke, or at least the dialect of Japanese, I guess. But also, if you remember season 1, any Law and Order fans? Law and Order fan? Oh, I love that show. Well, Adam Schiff, right? Adam Schiff, the original district attorney. Actually, I guess he was the original district attorney of Manhattan at that time. He played the original Peter Phelps, right? Yeah, so he was sort of revolutionary by assembling this cast of characters. This cast of characters, which included the likes, it's amazing, right? We had Barbara Bain, we have, who is that? Martin Landau. We had, look at that, we had Leslie Ann Warren, rather. We had, who is that? Sam Elliott? Yeah, huge cast of characters in here. The Strongman, Peter Lupus, the Strongman, right? He was in a lot of episodes. So again, this is sustaining because these are experts in their field, right? When Stephen Hill and Peter Falk, when they're assembling their team, they're assembling from dossiers of the best folks who do their job the best, right? They're efficient at what they're doing. They're con experts, right? That's essentially conning. They con governments out of their secrets or different things. Again, I'm not going to bash Tom Cruise. I'm a huge fan of Tom Cruise, right? Anyone else Tom Cruise fans? Yeah, Tom Cruise has a lot of great movies. There's one movie in particular I'm thinking of where he was very disruptive. Anyone think of this movie? I have to play the intro. Because I have 2 intermissions in this talk. I found I need an intermission to get myself hydrated. Can you figure it out from the soundtrack? Okay. I have to put the intro because I would not have believed that it was perfect, right? The intro was perfect for my talk when I saw this. Yeah, Tom Cruise. This gives it away, right? Kelly McGillis. Yes, Top Gun. Right. Yeah, so when I saw this, I'll blow it up a little bit. Yeah, so in the intro of Top Gun, it tells us, on March 3rd, 1969, the U.S. Navy established, right, this school for its elite pilots, right? When I read this, I went back in the history books, right? Yeah, let me research this, right? Tell my kids, research it. Don't believe everything you see on Hollywood, right? So I researched it. In 1968, the Department of Defense, U.S. Department of Defense, we suspended flight operations over Vietnam. Amazing. Did anyone know that? Yeah, I thought we had air dominance. It's like, wow, we suspended operations. The kill ratio from 1965 to 1968 was 3.7 to 1 in the U.S. favor against the Russian fighters. Right? It wasn't the Vietnamese pilots, right? We were fighting Russian pilots at the time. 3.7 to 1, that's pretty good. Close to 4 to 1, that's pretty good. The problem is we're facing the Russian hordes. They had more pilots than we did. They had more aircraft than we did. We were going to lose the war. We were going to run out of airframes. We were going to run out of pilots by the middle of 1968 at the rate we were facing, even at the rate of our success of 4 to 1. So DoD stopped air flights for a full year, pretty much about 11 to 13 months. They stopped operations. But here's the interesting thing, right? Our F-4s, this is where divergence takes place. For the Air Force, they do great things in breakthrough, right? Air Force, satellites, they give us GPS, they give us Space Command, right? The Air Force said we need better F-4s. We need better armament. We need faster propulsion. We need thrust to outmaneuver the MiG-17s, MiG-21s. We need better weapon systems. So they went the route of breakthrough, right? They got the F-4s to get better. The problem is, when we resumed operations in 1969, statistically, not too much difference, right? Yeah, it suffered, right? Benjamin Lambeth in this book criticized them. They actually suffered, but for mathematician, right? Statistically insignificant. Navy, they came up with Top Gun, right? This naval, they called it naval flight weapons school. 6 to 10 week course. That's all it was. And it wasn't for every single pilot. So that's the amazing thing. And with that course, this was the Navy results. 1301. When they brought back operations to the Navy in 1968, Air Force about the same, Navy 1301. That is, holy smokes. That's revolutionary. That's revolutionary success to me. And again, the amazing thing is not every pilot went through this course. The idea was you send your best pilots. Remember, if you remember Top Gun, Tom Cruise, Maverick was not the first one, right? Yeah, Maverick was not the first choice. It was Cougar. Why didn't Cougar get sent? That was the opening sequence. Cougar suffered PTSD, right? He was in that dogfight. The Russian plane got missile lock on him, and so he couldn't take it anymore. So he essentially suffered PTSD. And then Maverick got that slot. Maverick and Goose, they got bumped up. Even his boss didn't like it. Remember the bald-headed guy? I can't remember his name now. He was in Escape from New York. He was the mayor in Escape from New York. I don't remember his name. He's a great actor. But the thing was, they sent enough pilots through that course, right? At that time, I think it was a 10-week course. So for a full year, they had the best pilots from every squadron in the Navy attend this course. The idea was that these pilots will go back to their squadrons, and because they couldn't send everyone, these pilots will become emissaries of how you do proper dogfighting. So that's what they did. They spread the word. This is what we learned in this class, right? When we're chasing down Viper, when we're chasing down, who was the other? Viper and Jester. When we're chasing down Viper, when we're chasing down Jester, this is what we learned, right? We learned to get invert and throw the Russians the bird, right? That's how Tom Cruise got into that class. That was the top secret part, right? Wasn't that the top secret? Only he could tell Kelly Mills, but you'd have to kill her after telling her that. All right. Okay, so when we look back at this slide now, right? I like to make fun of the MBA guys here again. This is not a real good representation of looking at it, right? I'm not a big fan of this 2x2 matrix still. And I used to call this presentation learning to think creatively by thinking inside the box. Well, if I add one more axis, right? If I add one more axis, this notion of offset potential, right? How can it change the environment, right? What has the biggest impact of changing the environment? Which innovations? Well, now it is a box, right? It's still a 2D representation, but no, I've added a third dimension. So it's a box. The highest offset potential comes from the top two quadrants, right? Emerging markets, new markets, underserved markets, not from existing markets, right? So when you're reading these business executives, when they write their books, and they're telling you to take risks, they're telling you not taking risks here. They're telling you to take risks here. Revolutionary and breakthrough innovations, right? Here's the opposite side. Well, this is what it would look, right? The graph would look more representational like this. Still no numbers on my graphs, right? Terrible. I tell my cadets, give me numbers. Give me something, right? Terrible, no numbers. Okay, so instead of looking at offset potential, now we're going to change it. Probability of success, right? Now if I add this third criteria called probability of success, what does the graph look like? Well, it's the opposite, right? It's the opposite now. It's these bottom, right, existing markets. We can do market research, right? We know what customers like. We can do polling. We can do sampling. We do beta testing. We do alpha testing, right? We can figure out what customers like, don't like. And so you should be getting, right, this is low-hanging fruit here. You should be getting 60, 70, 80, 90%, right? Even 100%. I don't believe in 100%, right? 99 maybe. 99% success rates. Okay? So it's the opposite here. If we look at probability success as the third criteria, third axis. So again, this would be a more representational look. And again, still no numbers, right? I tell my cadets, give me some numbers. I don't want you to just brief me at this looks good. Give me some numbers. So I looked at, right? I looked at this thing called back in not too far long ago, right? 6, 7 years ago. 2010, 2011. Who remembers the Arab revolts, green revolts, spreading all across the Middle East, North Africa? Started in Tunisia, right? We had a street vendor selling vegetables, fruits. That was his livelihood. The police confiscated it. When he confiscated it, that's his livelihood, right? When you take away his livelihood, right, he set himself on fire, self-immolated himself. That happened on the 19th of December 2010. Again, being a cybersecurity conference, I have to plug, yeah, there was a lot of Twitter going on. Twitter was big. It was feeding a lot of this. We also had, I don't know if you remember this, but WikiLeaks was, right, Julian Assange gained popularity just prior to this. He published a bunch of U.S. Department of State cables. So a lot of these ambassadors, a lot of our State Department folks, we were criticizing the companies, the countries we were working in. We have embassies, right? We have embassies in Libya. We have embassies in Egypt. They're saying, we really shouldn't be doing business with this dictator. They're pretty corrupt. And so when that got leaked out, right, the people revolted. They said, yeah, even the U.S. is telling us our kings are corrupt. So that spread to 13 other countries. Huge, really fast. 14 countries revolted in the span of about 6 months. 6 months to a year. Which one succeeded? Libya succeeded from a revolt, right? As a revolt, Libya successfully revolted. Their king fled. I think 2 to 3 days after the king fled. Egypt, that happened in 3 days. The king fled in that conflict. Yemen, there's still fighting going on in Yemen, right? That king fled. Libya, Gaddafi was deposed. He got killed 2 years later, right? One of the rebel groups killed him 2 years later. The problem I have is, so again, right now we can say 4 out of 14. The problem I have is Egypt. Egypt truly was not a successful revolt. Who took over in Egypt? Sisi. Who was Sisi? What was he prior to becoming the president? Military general. Yeah. That's different, right? That's not a revolution. It started as a revolution, but when an army takes over, that's a military coup. Right? Armies, right? U.S. Army. Our Congress doesn't like it when we have a large standing army. We learned from the Romans, right? Remember from the Romans? It was bad to have Caesar and his armies cross the Rubicon, right? They're getting too close to Rome. Why is that? Well, it's because in the Roman times, the general was the one that fed the troops, paid the troops, clothed the troops, granted troops freedom after they served so many years successfully as a Roman conscript. Okay? So in this case, yeah, we don't like it when, in the U.S. side, our forefathers are smart, right? They don't like large standing armies. Yeah, so this notion, again, we see it time and time again, right? It's not just here in the Middle East, North Africa, South America, military coups happen. Southeast Asia, military coups happen. A lot of folks the U.S. military trains, they become dictators of the country. And militaries have the what? They have the leadership. They have the training. They have the equipment, right? They are not an upstart. They can very quickly take over a country, which is why our forefathers are smart. We like small militaries and efficient militaries, right? All the folks who are for our military, we know how inefficient our military is. In my 22 years of military service, I've moved 11 times. That's inefficient. That is very inefficient, right? And I know that we had some talks here throughout the GrrCON, right? CISOs move about every 2 years, right? 18 months, 2 years, that's inefficient, right? You gotta be there a long time to make sure policies are in place. That's inefficient, okay? But for the military side, the U.S. is pretty smart. We don't like these things called military coups, so we send our militaries right outside the U.S. as much as possible, unless you're National Guard. I know we had a National Guard speaker there. National Guard is different. They work for the governor. So in this case, I always tell my students also, never let generals do math in public, because whatever they do in public, they think that their math is always correct. So always do the math for them. So this is what the math turned out to be. For every one country out of 14, that's going to be about 7%. So 10 unsuccessful revolutions, 71%, and then successful revolutions, 3 out of 14, 21%. What about Libya? I don't have Libya up there. Or Syria, rather. Syria. Syria is still a question mark, right? We're still fighting there. The U.S. is supporting the rebels. The Russians have jumped in. They're supporting Assad and the regime. I studied a lot of counterinsurgencies. Counterinsurgency fights are easy. If you're really smart, they're really easy. We make a big deal how counterinsurgency fights it's the highest level of warfare. I've done enough research to say this. Counterinsurgency warfare is actually quite easy. And I have a paper out on that if you'd like to read it. The problem is that Russia, with now supporting Syria, and now that Syria is truly fighting the rebels, they've got a handle on it. And hopefully Hollywood will show why this is the case again. Okay, now here's the problem with Hollywood. I told you I was going to come back to this theme of pirates. So on the revolutionary side, right, we can always look to the past, right? It's always good, right? Johnny Depp, looking at him as Captain, what is it, Jack Sparrow? Look at ways, pretty revolutionary stuff that he's doing, right? The reality is all pirates at that time were revolutionary. They were not sanctioned by the king or queen, other than Drake, right? Drake had pardon, so he had the best ships. These guys had the worst ships. But they were conning, they were conniving, they were thieving, all stuff on the low-tech side. But again, I told you I'm not really that much of a pirate fan, so my favorite movies are Star Wars, right? I was hoping to see some Star Wars shirts here. But the Jedi Knights, right? The Knights, again, still in the past, but I'm looking at Jedi Knights. So if you think revolutions are easy, right? That's because Hollywood tells us, yeah, revolutions are easy. But the reality is, my favorite Star Wars movie was Episode 5, right? Not Episode 4 or 3. I guess we'd call this 3.8, 3.7, whatever we call it, Rogue One. Well, I like Episode 5, right? Because the reality is, when the Emperor and the Darth Vader, they recognize the rebellion is taking place, they don't fight them one-on-one. They come up with this thing called the Death Star. We think there's a rebellion on the planet, take the whole planet out. That's breakthrough innovation, right? And it's pretty much successful, right? It just took a lot of time to develop. That's the problem, right? That's the problem with breakthrough. It takes a long time. That's why the rebellions, if they're smart, they can fight breakthrough innovations because there's a lot of time, a lot of R&D, a lot of resources that go into breakthrough types of innovation. But here's the reality, right? At best, major league batting average. But for me, it's a nice way of simply thinking about how to think about probabilities. And really, that ties back to David Christmas's talk, right? Baseball. Yeah. So think about baseball batting averages as maybe a good number to think of successful revolutionary breakthrough types of innovation. So if that's 30%, yeah, this is maybe probably about 70%, right? Now, I told you I'm going back to this notion of pirates. Okay, so if Johnny Depp was the revolutionary side, right, the pirate who's really, right, doesn't have the resources that's granted by the kings and queens at the time, well, my favorite movie of this year has been Guardians of the Galaxy, Volume 2. These are space pirates, right? If you remember, what they're doing is they're bounty hires for sale, right? If you remember the opening sequence, see if this works. If you remember the opening sequence of the movie, here's my second intermission. Remember the opening sequence of the movie? They were hired down to kill this creature, right? Because this creature had stolen some batteries from this culture, this planet. That's Baby GRReat. High-tech stuff, right? Breakthrough. Even at that time, right? Even for space. High-tech stuff. Right? Gamora, she normally wields a sword. She's using a pulse rifle. High-tech. Breakthrough. Alright. Here's my intermission. Baby GRReat. I'm GRReat. Now, I would say Guardians of the Galaxy would have been more breakthrough, right? That crew would have been more breakthrough if they actually had duct tape. They had a joke on duct tape. I'm not going to spoil it, but they had a joke on duct tape for this movie, if you haven't seen it yet, which was terrific. So if they actually had duct tape with them, it would have been revolutionary. They would have been MacGyver. But there was no duct tape, right? So they were relying mostly on breakthrough types, jumping the curve types of vision. So instead of thinking of this quadrant system, yeah, I told you I'm not too much of this MBA type of world. I'm thinking of like timelines. So evolutionary sustaining innovation, it's not that there's no innovation taking place here. You just go slowly. Right here it looks like it's pretty good, but it's relative, right? It's all relative. So breakthrough, I call it jumping the curve because it's on top of this notion of evolutionary sustaining innovations, right? It hasn't been designed yet for a market. Here's where revolutionary innovations take place. On the bottom. How can this ever even take place? You are creating something that the market thinks is inferior. What happens all over? Xerox versus Canon, IBM versus Apple, the big three versus the Japanese imports. Xerox made the big printers, right? Back in the late 70s, early 80s, print divisions that filled the size of this auditorium. Right? They catered to big customers. Canon, they focus on the home-based market. Inferior quality. Xerox laughed at Canon. You guys are creating crap. No one's going to buy that. Well, home-based users liked it. Same thing with Apple versus IBM. Apple catered to the home-based market. IBM laughed at them. IBM had the mainframe. You got much more power. Your crap home-based computer has like a tenth of power that computing power has. No one's going to buy your personal PC. It was a kludge system anyways. People film, right? We have all tablets. What about the vehicles? I know I'm in the land of close to Detroit. What happened here? 1979. 1979? Yeah, so what was the newly valued criteria? Miles per gallon. Yeah, miles per gallon became a new value criteria. Was it quality at first? Right now we say quality, right? Toyota, Honda's much better quality than Ford. At that time, 1979, nah, Ford and Chrysler, they actually had better quality. Fuel economy became the single important criteria, but as more and more customers bought their vehicles, quality improved as well as, and they're getting bigger too, right? We know the vehicles now are getting bigger. Okay, so, and again, this happens everywhere. BlackBerry versus iPhone, right? What was BlackBerry wedded to? What was their anchor? Keyboard, right? They were wedded to the keyboard. Their customers wanted better keyboard, bigger keyboards. iPhone simplicity. Did you ever see a grandparent with a BlackBerry? Very few, right? If you saw a grandparent with a BlackBerry, whoo, they were high tech. iPhones. I see kids, right? I see 5-year-olds with iPhones. Simplicity. Right? Yeah, you might say customization too, but simplicity. Grandparents are using iPhones. It happens everywhere. This notion, it happens everywhere. Sports, even in research, I see it all over the place. So if you doubt that revolutionary innovations exist, come talk to me. I can give you examples of where it's existing all over the place. Now, this whole thing, I'm almost out of time, so I just want to go through this very quickly. Now, I know I focus on revolutionary innovations in this talk, but the reality is we need innovation in all 4 quadrants. That's the reality. Okay, I focus on revolutionary because of this. From our military, we disregard this space, and we do it at our peril. Korean War, Vietnam War, Iraq, Afghanistan. Holy smokes. What's an IED? What does it actually stand for? The word it's improvised. That is revolutionary. It's not even a weapon system. It's improvised. That is a revolutionary type of weapon system. And here's the danger, cyber warfare. Here's my argument. The very first time you see a malware, you might argue that some 0 days fall and breakthrough, but I'm arguing most of the malware falls in this disruptive space the first time. Anyone want to challenge me on that? We'll talk about it afterwards. I'm almost out of time here. Here's the problem there. So if we're doing cyber defense, again, I told you a lot of folks, especially in the military and our government, they focus on this breakthrough area, right? It's not just breakthrough, right? We're doing sustaining and evolutionary defense as well. We're not doing a whole lot of revolutionary. You know who's doing revolutionary defense? When I come to these conferences, when I hear Jason Street talking about a new free way of tracking attackers, that's revolutionary to me, right? Let them in. You know they're coming in. Just track them. Give them a spoofed admin password, and every time they use it, right, someone gets into it, you track them. Here's the other problem, though. Again, from a military intelligence point of view, here's where these offensive cyber tools come from. Yeah, mostly, I told you, mostly revolutionary, but also staying, right, it moves. Right, it moves once it's created, right? Version 2.0, version 3.0 tend to be evolutionary, right? Sustaining, they just try and make it easier, faster. They find the holes. That's all they're doing. As from a military intelligence point of view, there's a gap. Our offense, or actually our defense is not keeping up with the offense. That's why when you hear all these conferences, why is the attacker 1 or 2 steps ahead of the defense? Here's my argument why that's taking place. Our defense in blue is ignoring this space. We need to be faster with our defense. Don't rely so much on AI. AI out of the box does not exist yet. Right? It takes time. And while we're taking that time, the bad guys, mostly criminals again, right? They're siphoning money off, right? Businesses. Now this is the one slide that I have really a lot of words on. So if you really want to copy one or take a picture of, this is the one I would say take a picture of. Don't worry, I'm going to post all these slides if you want to just email me. That's why I have my email address in the bottom of these slides. I think being an early adopter of problem experimentation is the best way of doing revolutionary innovation. There's other ways of doing it, but I think this last one is the best way. Because all we're doing is creating creativity out of the box type of thinking. I think this talk resonates with a lot of hackers. If you're computer, or even if you're a small base, right, pen tester, small base cyber defense, blue team, I think this resonates with a lot of us in this audience because really, we need to be experimenting, right? We need to be doing what Jason Street is doing. We need to be doing what David Christmas is talking about, right? It's not like they're succeeding every time, right? They run through roadblocks, they fail. But as long as they're persistent, they'll find the back doors, they'll find the holes, they'll find a way to improve defense. They'll find a way to improve offense. It's okay. Experiment. Low cost, right? Make sure it's low cost. We tend to learn more from cheap failures than big failures, right? Talk NASA. NASA had some big failures. They didn't learn quite too well from big failures. And make sure that they're small scale. Don't consume all your R&D budget. Make sure it is an experiment. That's why when I give this talk to K through 12 students, I tell them don't forget what they're learning in their classroom. I had students telling me what they're learning in the chemistry, what they're learning in biology. They're doing experiments. I'm teaching cadets now. They failed. It seems like once they get out of chemistry and physics, right? They seem, I'm never going to do an experiment again. I don't know. You got to keep that experimental frame of mind in place. That's the problem, right? We think that the experiments end once Chem 101 or 102 is over with. And here's my second to last slide. Here's the problem if we're not doing experimentation or revolutionary types of innovation. I told you again, breakthrough and revolutionary, right? Very limited chance of success, right? In this case, I'm highlighting one out of 5, right? That 20%. Now, if we are not doing this space, and again, I know our government's going to be wedded to this breakthrough, so I'm not too concerned about that. And I know we're still doing evolutionary thing. If we're not doing revolutionary innovation, I'm not thinking about it. Colin Powell had this great talk, right? He says our military, it's good that our military is no longer a non-zero defects. We don't have that non-zero defects mentality anymore. That's a good thing. He said that's good. I agree, that's a good thing. But that's not enough. In cyber warfare, we need a military with an experimenting frame of mind, not just a non-zero defects, right? It's okay to make mistakes, but I want us to do more. I want us to experiment more. Make mistakes deliberately, right? Chart down your answers. Figure out what went wrong. Okay, that's really the bottom line that to my talk. Trying to encourage our cyber forces, right? As we structure our cyber core military, right? It's 2 years old now. That's what I want our lieutenants, our captains to be 5 years from now. I'm hopeful. It's these lieutenants, second lieutenants right now, first lieutenants soon to be in another year. When they become the captains and majors in our military, that's when I think we'll turn the tipping point. We'll get this experimenting frame of mind. A lot of our generals just don't get it right now. It's okay. That's why I'm giving these talks, right? A big thanks to Chris Payne, Eggdrop, and really the entire GrrCON crew. We at Army Cyber Institute, we do our own conference. It's actually taking place on the 7th and 8th of November. Here's a shameless plug. In DC, it's called Cyber Conflict US. We do it in partnership with the NATO CCD COE, the Estonians, the NATO crew. They host their own conference, GrrCON Estonia. So we've sort of mirrored theirs for the US. A lot of military folks can't get to Estonia. They put on a great conference. This is our second one. I can tell you it's going to be a great conference because my talk got rejected. I wrote a paper for it. My talk got rejected, so it's going to be a great conference. It's a shameless plug for GrrCON US, 7-8 November in DC, if you're able to attend. If you have any questions, if you want to copy the slides or the papers, I've written a couple papers on these. Just send me an email message. I have them already posted on a link, so I can send you the link. And thanks for your time, and I don't think we have time for questions, all right? Yeah, I have time for questions. I'm blaming it on David Xmas. He gave us the gift of not having me answer any questions. But email me. If you're interested in this topic, just email me. I enjoy talking about this and continuing this dialogue over the Ethernet, or the internet. Thank you.